Amen. All right. So again, we are in Genesis chapter 29 this morning, and that is our aim to cover this chapter. So let's go back real quick to chapter 28, where we were looking at on Wednesday. And of course, we are in the story of Jacob, and things have not gone well in Jacob's life. He has, by trickery, gotten the blessing from his father. By some, you might call them underhanded dealings, gotten the birthright from his brother. And so he's gotten these things, yet there is discord in his family, there's enmity, and while he is supposed to inherit the promised land, in chapter 28, he is forced to flee from the promised land. While he is to inherit the blessing of his father, he leaves with nothing. And so things are not well in the life of the patriarch. But chapter 28 is a pivotal moment because of God appearing to Jacob and the promises that God makes to Jacob. So I'm just going to go back and read verses 14 and 15 of chapter 28. The Lord said to Jacob, "Your offspring shall be like the dust of the earth, and you shall spread abroad to the west and to the east and to the south, and to the north and to the south. And in you and your offspring shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Behold, I am with you, and will keep you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I promised you." So this is God saying, I am going to give you the blessings that I had made to Abraham and to Isaac. And furthermore, I am going to be with you. I am with you now. I will continue to be with you. And so Jacob is now at the point where Abraham would have been. God had promised to Abraham, I am going to make you a great nation. I'm going to bless all families of the earth through you. And Abraham had to choose whether or not he was going to believe that promise. He had to put his faith in God. Is Jacob going to do the same? Is he going to trust God to keep his word or not? And it would be unfair, I think, to say that he has no faith or no trust in God, but what you see in this chapter and the next, I believe anyway, is Jacob continuing to try to obtain blessings, favor by his own means. And he is certainly going to prosper. You'll see that Wednesday night. You'll see his family prosper. You'll see his material possessions prosper. And yet there continues to be strife. There continues to be enmity. And again, because he's not truly considering God and dedicating himself to God's ways. And we'll see that in our class today too. So, that said, starting in chapter 29, remember, where is it that Jacob is being sent to? Haran. Okay, so this is going back to chapter 27 after Rebekah and Jacob had deceived Isaac into giving him the blessing. What was Esau's response to that? Yeah. When my father dies, I am going to kill my brother. And Rebekah had heard this. So the plan was, we're going to send Jacob up to Haran with the plan to marry someone who's not a Canaanite, but this is really Rebekah's plan to make sure that Jacob is not killed by his brother Esau. That is a 550 to 600 mile journey. It would have taken a solid month to have made that journey. And in chapter 28, we saw really the first stage of that journey when Jacob made his way to Bethel. Bethel's only about 60 miles away from Beersheba, where Isaac's family was really stationed. So when we start chapter 29, he's got still a long journey ahead of him, almost 500 miles at least, to make his way up to Haran. And that's where he goes. Now, when you start chapter 29, there are some interesting parallels, I think, to chapter 24. Remember, chapter 24 is when Abraham sends his servant back to Haran to obtain for Isaac a wife. And so his servant goes up there, and of course he goes to a well. And remember, the servant in that occasion, he is praying to God. He is asking God that God would bestow favor on him, that God would, prosper him in this endeavor. And he even gives God kind of a sign, if you will, to keep. If the woman comes and she not only offers me water, but she offers to water the camels, then that would be the woman that God would want Isaac to marry. And of course, that woman did appear, and it was Rebekah. But the story there is really interesting in that the servant continually prays to God. And when Rebekah goes and she waters the camels, then the servant bows down and worships God. He is just thankful to God the entire time and trusting in God. God's not mentioned in Jacob's journey to Haran after he left Bethel. So he gets to Haran, and there are shepherds. Okay, they've come to this well. And there are multiple shepherds there with multiple flocks of sheep. And he sees this woman coming, who would be Rachel, and it says that she is a shepherdess. Now, first off, what does this perhaps tell you about Laban's family? That Rachel is the one who is shepherding the sheep at this point. Okay, has no sons, for sure. What else would it tell you about Laban's family? Is he wealthy? Is he prosperous? Huh? Well, to have the flocks, yes. But it would seem, who would you normally have shepherding the flock? If not a son, then what would you have? Who would you have shepherding your flocks? You'd have servants, okay? And that's going to be a thing whenever we get to, DK may talk about this a little bit on Wednesday night, or Steve and Ethan whenever they start chapter 31. Laban is going to prosper and prosper greatly. But he may not have prospered that much up to this point. Okay? And in fact, we read later that Laban does have sons. Now, maybe those sons are born later. They're younger than Rachel. Don't know. Well, here comes Rachel. And so Jacob, doesn't necessarily know who she is at this point. He is asked about, he does. He had asked the shepherds about Haran and about Laban. And they said, oh, yes, he's here, he's in Haran, and here's his daughter Rachel coming. And so Jacob has asked these men, well, why don't you just go ahead and water your flocks now? This is not the time for them to be put up. His idea is, you don't take your flocks in the middle of the day and kind of herd them all together and, get ready for the night. No, they still need to be out to pasture. Just go ahead and water them now. And their response is, oh no, that's not the agreement. And that tends to be, historically borne out that these cultures, communities, because water is such a scarce resource, there would be agreements between the local families and the shepherds of how the water was to be used. And so the agreement here at Haran is, okay, we will water our flock, but we're all going to do it at the same time. That way it could be monitored, it could be understood how much water each flock was taking. So they make sure to wait. Rachel comes. And it's interesting, I don't know if we're supposed to make anything of this, because the shepherd said, when everybody gets here together, we all roll the stone away from the well. And Rachel gets there, and Jacob goes and rolls the stone away by himself. Now, that might indicate that he, is a fairly strong guy, or it may just be an incidental comment in the text. What I do think is interesting is what you see in verse 11. Okay, he has rolled the stone away so that the flocks could be watered. And then Jacob kissed Rachel and wept aloud. What do you think is going through Jacob's mind? Well, maybe. Maybe he's found a wife. What else? Now, some of you sentimental gentlemen, yes, you may have cried at your wedding. Earned some brownie points right there with the wife right then and there. Did you weep? I don't think you probably wept. Joe?
I was going to say, possibly he realized he found his destination.
Okay, yeah. And why is that so important? Why did he have to come up here in the first place? That's right, he's fleeing for his life. Again, just note the contrast between chapter 24 and this. Chapter 24, a servant is sent out to do Abraham's will and what would be the will of God as well, you might say, in finding a suitable bride for Isaac. And this servant entrusts God with that process the entire time, asking God for favor. And then when Rebekah shows herself to be the one, he bows down, worships, gives thanks to God. Jacob meets Rachel, who is from the house of Laban. So he knows he's come to the right destination. He knows he's come to the family. Yes, he may even understand that Rachel could be his wife, but there's no mention of God. There is no thanksgiving to God. Because remember, back in chapter 28, God said, I am with you, I will be with you. Jacob does not take the time to bow down and give thanks to God. He weeps. And I think, anyway, this is probably indicative of what's going on within the turmoil. He is under stress, he is under strain, and now there is relief. And so he's come to the right place and he weeps. I could be completely wrong in that reading. Again, we're just looking at words on a page and trying to ascertain what's going on. But it does kind of fit in the life of Jacob. That yes, he is following God, but he doesn't necessarily think about the ways of God a whole lot. And I don't think he's doing that here either. Questions, comments on this part of the text so far? Okay. So, he finds out, of course, again, this is Laban's daughter. They go to Rachel's home. All right, verse 13. I don't remember where I have in the text. Okay, we're not there yet. Woo-hoo. All right, verse 13. As soon as Laban heard the news about Jacob, his sister's son, he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. Jacob told Laban all these things, and Laban said to him, surely you are my bone and my flesh, and he stayed with him a month. Okay, now, what do you remember about Laban when we were introduced to him in chapter 24? Because remember, that's Rebekah's brother. What do you remember about Laban when Abraham's servant goes up to find a wife for Isaac? We're introduced to Laban. Yeah, wants him to stay longer. Let Rebekah stay longer with the family before they go. Anything else?
It's exciting when he sees all of the bracelets and rings.
Yeah, so there's an interesting, and the text specifies this, chapter 24 and verse 30. So you go back to verse 29. Rebekah had a brother whose name was Laban. Laban ran out toward the man to the spring, and as soon as he saw the ring and the bracelets on his sister's arms and heard the words of Rebekah, his sister, and he goes on, then he invites the man in. So, but the text is pointing out Laban saw these things. Okay? He saw the jewels. He saw the gold. Okay? There's a difference, though. Abraham's servant went with 10 camels, bearing provisions and gifts. What's Jacob showing up with? Doesn't look like he has anything. Jacob's not showing up with anything. However, Jacob does tell Laban what's happened. And remember, Isaac had certainly inherited Abraham's possessions, but Isaac himself prospered greatly. So Jacob stands to prosper even more. Okay? Isaac has continued to accumulate possessions and livestock. That is all supposed to be Jacob's at some point. And so that may very well be why Laban rolls out the red carpet. Not because there's anything that he has at this point, but Jacob stands to inherit all these things. Now there's one other significant thing in this text. Laban says to him, "You are my bone and my flesh." We are family. What's Laban going to do to Jacob before this chapter's over? Exactly. He is going to deceive Jacob just as Jacob had deceived his family. Okay? So maybe there's a lesson God's trying to show his people here too. When you live your life through deceit and you're trying to gain things however you can, don't be shocked when these same things come back around to you. Because that's certainly what's happening here in the family of Jacob. All right, so it would seem that Jacob stays on for about a month and is just working. Working for Laban, helping out, doing whatever it may be that he was doing. And so then Laban asks, okay, what would be your price? Continue to work for me. You don't need to work for free. So what would be your price? Verse 16, now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah. The name of the younger was Rachel. Leah's eyes were weak. Now, I am curious, what do other translations have there? Leah's eyes were weak. Delicate? Okay. It could be that it certainly could be that it's dealing with a physical issue, an eyesight issue. This also could just be a way of describing shape and color. That certain shapes and color would be more prized in certain societies, and so that Rachel had the right kind of eyes and Leah did not. We're not told elsewhere that Leah had problems seeing per se, but that certainly could be the issue here. But it's her eyes that are delicate. Good, yeah. I mean, to be fair to Leah, she's not described as ugly. She's just, she's not as pretty in the society as her sister. I'm not going to say anything more about that. All right, so Jacob loved Rachel, and so it says, I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter Rachel. Now, historically, again, what has been uncovered is that bride price is a normal thing. Okay, so daughters had dowries that they would bring into the family, but there was also bridal prices that were paid to be able to take a wife from a family. And oftentimes, at least is what's been uncovered, that would be between 20 to 40 shekels of silver would be the bridal price of a woman. It's thought that the normal wages, accumulated wages for a shepherd, would be about 1 shekel of silver a month. So you do that, 12 shekels a year times 7, we're at what, 84? Okay, so 84 shekels of silver. So if that's all true, then Jacob is saying, I'll pay you double. I'll give you double for your younger daughter. And maybe even he's saying that because he understands she is the younger daughter. Leah's not married, but so I'll pay you double for the younger daughter. So 7 years, and the text goes on to say, the 7 years just fly by. It seems as nothing because of the love he had for her. But that's when the deceit comes through. Jacob said to Laban, after the 7 years are over, give me my wife that I may go into her, for my time is completed. So Laban gathered together all the people of the place and made a feast. But in the evening he took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob, and he went into her. Laban gave his female servant Zilpah to his daughter Leah to be her servant. And in the morning, behold, it was Leah. Now, we've already established one way in which, this story kind of harkens back to what Jacob has already done in his own family. Okay? So Jacob, who deceived his father, is now deceived by another family member. He's deceived by Laban. What other parallels would you see in this?
The way he deceived his father, now he's being deceived.
Yeah, absolutely. So that same deception's come about. What else? Is Jacob younger or older? Say, Jacob's younger than Esau. I mean, barely, I know, but still, he is the younger. Okay, so he has inverted the roles, flipped them upside down in his own family. So the younger, who would normally be under the older in that family, now is flipped. Jacob is the dominant in the family. He has the birthright. He has the family blessing. But then what happens in this encounter with Laban? Flip back again. He wanted the younger daughter, but now the older is substituted for the younger. See anything else? It's done in the dark. What did it say about Isaac's eyesight? Isaac couldn't see. Isaac's old. His eyes were failing him. So Isaac doesn't know what's going on. Jacob doesn't know what's going on. And John's right. It's done in the dark. The feast has happened all day. It's night. Leah would have been wearing a veil all day. She's brought into a dark tent. He doesn't know. He's been deceived. His senses have failed him. And one other, I think, parallel, of course, who else was in on the deception with Jacob when they deceived Isaac? His own mother. Is Laban the only one in on this deception? Leah has to be in on it too, to some degree. Now, she may not have been happy about it. She may have only been doing it because her father says you have to do this, but she's in on it. I don't know where Rachel is. Did he lock her away in a tent? I don't know. But, there are multiple people involved in this deception. So again, Jacob, who has obtained all these things in his life, and yet used deception to do it, and used, again, upsetting the whole apple cart in the family. And he's suffered for it already, and now he's suffering for it again. Now all those things are happening to him. His chickens have come home to roost, and that is right here in his family. Yeah, Steve?
It seems to me it's interesting that he chooses Rachel and says she is beautiful in form and appearance, and he makes his choice by looks. Lot made his choice by looks of the land. Yet Leah is the one who is the blessed of God and has the seed in Judah.
Yeah.
That will become the ruler of his people and the descendant, the lineage of Christ. So it's like he made a choice based on look. God takes care of Leah, and Leah is blessed with the son.
Yeah. Y'all make sure Joyce hears about this today. Steve says, don't choose your wife based on looks. But, no. That's another, could be. I mean, I think as we go through the story, neither Leah or Rachel necessarily show themselves to be stalwarts of faith. But Leah does have some things in her favor, like you said, and we'll get to the end of this in this chapter. Are any other questions, comments on the text so far? Deception has occurred. All right, so Jacob, shocked, surprise. What have you done to me? You think maybe he, at some point in his life, thought, I wonder if that's what Esau thought after he ate the bowl of stew and he finally understood what I got from him. What did my brother do to me? Is that what Isaac thought? What did my son do to me? So now Jacob has this thought, what have you done to me? Did I not serve you for Rachel? Why then have you deceived me? Laban says, it is not so done in our country to give the younger before the firstborn. And that's another interesting thing, by the way. You go back earlier in the text, Laban never specifically promised, yes, I will give you Rachel. When Jacob said, I will serve you 7 years for Rachel, Laban's response was, it's better to give her to you than to another man. But that is not a specific yes. Here you go. You do this, I'll do this. And even when Jacob finishes the 7 years, he doesn't say to Laban, give me Rachel. He says, give me my wife. So, that may have played into Laban's hands as well. So the deceit has been throughout these 7 years. Laban never had any intention of giving to Jacob the daughter that he had desired. And so he says, verse 27, complete the week of this one. That is the marriage week, a time of feasting, a time of celebration. So 7 days. He is going to have to work 7 more years, but he is able to marry Rachel after only 7 days. So I know, I remember hearing the story as a kid, and it was like, oh yeah, 7 years and 7 more years. And so after 14 years, he finally got married. No, he doesn't wait that long. Interestingly, the law would forbid this. Leviticus 18 and verse 18, you shall not take a woman as a rival wife to her sister. Well, rival wife is absolutely what happens in Jacob's family. You've got rivalry upon rivalry. And so the law itself said, no, Israel, you descendants of Jacob, you're not supposed to do this. But that certainly had happened in Jacob's family. Now, it goes on to say in verse 30, so Jacob goes into Rachel also, and he loved Rachel more than Leah, and served Laban for another 7 years. Okay. Questions, comments on any part of the text, DK?
Yeah, you're talking about all the comparisons and ironies comparing the story of Jacob and Esau. I know that Thursday meeting was when Esau realizes that he's been tricked out of his, or that Isaac's been tricked out of the blessing. He asks 3 times, can I have a blessing? Can I have a blessing? There's nothing left for him to get. Jacob does the same thing here. He asks 3 questions.
Oh. No, I had not. All right, so Esau asked his father 3 times, and then Jacob asked 3 questions. What have you done? Did I not serve you for Rachel? Why then have you deceived me? That's an interesting parallel. All right, so let's get into then the family and the family dynamics of Jacob's family. So Steve made this point earlier about, Leah is going to be in the chosen line. So verse 31, when the Lord saw that Leah was hated. Now, go back to verse 30. Jacob loved Rachel more than Leah. So when we read in verse 31, Leah was hated, I do not take that to mean that Jacob despised her, Jacob treated her, poorly, but she is not loved as a wife should be loved. She is not the object of her husband's affection. And so that is why it is termed that way. May also even be helpful in our understanding of passages later in the Old Testament, much later in the Old Testament. Jacob I have loved, Esau I have hated. Well, through the prophets, God would give Edom, the inhabitants or the nation that descended from Esau, many opportunities to repent. They would not. They were punished for it. Jacob had a special place in God's heart because of what they would bring about with the chosen Messiah. So even there, did God truly hate, despise Esau, despise Edom? No, but they did not have the standing before God that Jacob had and Israel had. Okay, so Leah was hated. He opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. Now, we've paid attention to this in the text. Remember, Sarah was barren, chapter 11, verse 30. Rebekah was barren in chapter 25, verse 21. And so if we were just kind of keeping on with that track, we think, okay, so Rachel is the really significant one here because she is also barren. The Messiah is going to come through which son? Judah. the fourth son of Leah. So in this case, God is choosing not to bring about His will through one who was barren, physically unable to have children. No, He's choosing the one that was unloved. And God is going to use her in His purpose to bring about the Messiah ultimately to the world. So what you have in the rest of the chapter is you have, let's see if I have that in the, yeah. Okay. I truly ought to review my PowerPoints before I show them so I'll know where I was. You'll have 4 children of Leah that are listed because God has listened to her. God has opened her womb. She is going to bear 4 sons at this point for Jacob. Each one, the name does not necessarily mean what is attributed to it in the text, but it sounds like the word. The meanings can be very similar, very close, but it sounds like the word. But even here, I think we get a glimpse of just how dysfunctional things are in this family. So it's picking up in verse 32. Leah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Reuben, for she said, because the Lord has looked upon my affliction, for now my husband will love me. Okay, so Reuben sounds like the Hebrew word for looked. So he's named for that. But what is Leah's hope with the birth of this son? Okay, Jacob's going to love me. Yeah, God has looked on me, but now Jacob is going to be the one who loves me. She conceived again, verse 33. Bore a son, said, because the Lord has heard that I am hated, He has given me this son also. And she called his name Simeon. Okay, so Simeon sounds like the word for heard. But again, the naming of this son is about Jacob's attitude toward her. The Lord has heard that I am hated. And so I'll name my son Simeon. Third time, verse 34, she conceived and bore a son and said, now this time my husband will be attached to me because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore his name was called Levi. Levi sounds like the word for attached. And she says, my husband will be attached to me. So three children, all born with a name that reflects something about the relationship between husband and wife. The Lord has looked on me. I really hope my husband is going to look on me with favor. The Lord has heard me. And why has He heard me? Because I'm hated. My husband does not look on me with the affection that I longed for. And now with the 3rd son, this will attach my husband to me. Now contrast that with the 4th son. She conceived again and bore a son and said, this time I will praise the Lord. Therefore she called his name Judah, then she ceased bearing. Judah sounds like he may praise. There's no mention of the husband this time. Maybe she's just given up. She knows Jacob's affections are not going to be for her. She knows she will never obtain the position in the family that Rachel has. So Jacob's just not even mentioned. But I'll praise the Lord. With this son, I will praise the Lord. Now, as we go through the rest of Genesis, there's going to be some reasons why various ones of Jacob's children do not receive the ultimate blessing that was going to come by God's promise. That is, of course, the Messiah coming to the world. Reuben, Simeon, and Levi are all going to disqualify themselves for various reasons. But even right here in the naming of the children, I think God already knows certainly and has seen, here's the one that the promised one's going to come through. And it's the one who's named after praise, giving praise to God. And of course, he would be the one that ultimately Jesus is born from. All right, I'm a little early. They're about to ring the first bell, but questions, comments on anything in relationship to Jacob and the family here? Wow. Did a really good job today, I guess. Yeah, Steve?
Well, jumping ahead to Ethan and I's class, in 47, when Jacob looks back over his life, because we're going to see the turmoil, he says, the days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 few, and evil have been the days and years of my life. So Jacob's life evidently was not, he did not consider it good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. He knows they were difficult, and he goes through a lot of hardships. He will say later in chapter 48, though, that the Lord had been his shepherd his entire life. And again, I just don't think he's under that realization yet. As far as, good things, this passage, again, Leah, she at least acknowledges the Lord in all these children that are born. The Lord has looked, the Lord has heard. And now I will give praise to the Lord. So there is at least some acknowledgement on her part. Again, I think if you're Israel and you're hearing this story, and for us as well, I think what we're getting from this story of Jacob is, this is the chosen one. This is God's people. And you can obtain things by your own efforts, but are you really going to obtain what God wants you to have by your own efforts? And Jacob does not do that. Jacob's going to have to undergo a radical transformation in his life to fully have what God intends for him to have. And he's not there yet. Israel is supposed to learn that lesson. Christians are supposed to learn that lesson, that Jacob is a patriarch of Israel, and yet he's not perfect. His faith needed to grow a lot. Kenny?
Yeah, I think that's the major point of slowing down and looking at the life of Jacob. At the point he gets married, he's in his mid-70s. This is what is frustrating to me is there's so much that we don't know about the life of Jacob. That we've basically given 3 or 4 episodes. None of them made him a very good life. And all this, and I wonder about the character of Jacob. And again, I guess the other thing that you have to look at, you made this point a couple of times, is there was no way for this to happen because the way that the patriarchal structure was put together, it was always the older brother.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about the 3rd oldest brother. Not, I mean, the way the life of the lineage of Christ is constructed, God had to have a hand in it because otherwise there was really no way for this to happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, God's hand in the ultimate blessing, which again he had made to Jacob back in chapter 28, that through Jacob and his offspring, all families of the earth are going to be blessed. God is the one who's bringing that promise to fruition. And this is something that Paul really gets at, particularly in Romans 9 and other passages. Israel missed the point of what their role was. Israel thought, we are the people of God. We are the blessed ones. No, you brought the Messiah into the world. And God chose very flawed people and a flawed nation to bring that about. Now, salvation is available to everyone who will put their faith in Christ. So that's what Paul was trying to get home to his kinsmen, and they miss it. Yes, sir?
It's quite interesting how God can, as you said, bring his plans to fruition, and how he can work over man, around man, and through man, and yet at the same time, someone does that is wise if we watch our P's and our Q's.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So our responsibility is always to follow the will of God. That is dependent on our relationship with Him. But yet God is also so omniscient and all-powerful that He makes His plans come to fruition regardless of what man chooses to do. And that is certainly the story you find throughout the Bible. Well, we'll go and end for now Genesis chapter 30 on Wednesday evening. And then again, remember, starting next Sunday, we'll only have Sunday morning classes as our summer series will start. Thank you.